My name is Emily Carter, and when I tell people I ran away at 15, they usually imagine it was some kind of rebellious teenage stunt. Like I just wanted freedom, parties, and adventure. But the truth? It wasn't glamorous. It was terrifying, heartbreaking, and it almost destroyed me. It started in the middle of one of the worst fights I'd ever had with my mom. She'd been strict my whole life, but after Dad left when I was 12, she became unbearable. Every decision I made was wrong. Every friend I had was trouble. Every word out of my mouth felt like an argument. That night, she screamed at me for hours because I'd come home 20 minutes late from school. Just 20 minutes. You can't even follow the simplest rule, Emily, she shouted, slamming her hand on the kitchen table. Do you want to end up like your father? Irresponsible and gone? Something in me snapped. I screamed back, louder than I ever had in my life. I'm not Dad. I'm me. And maybe I wouldn't want to leave all the time if you didn't make this house feel like a prison. Her face went pale, then red with fury. If you hate it here so much, then go. See how far you get without me holding your hand. And the worst part? She meant it. I stormed up to my room, slammed the door, and in a haze of anger and tears, I shoved clothes into my backpack. A hoodie, a pair of jeans, my phone charger, $50 I'd been saving from babysitting. My heart pounded like a drum as I shoved my sneakers on and slipped out the window. The air outside was freezing, but the adrenaline kept me warm. For the first time, I felt free, but also more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. I walked for hours, not really knowing where I was going. I ended up at the bus station. I stared at the schedule board, pretending I had a plan. My phone buzzed with a dozen missed calls from Mom. I couldn't even bring myself to look at the messages. First time on your own? A voice asked. I turned to see a girl about my age, maybe a little older. She had jet black hair, ripped jeans, and eyes that looked way older than 16. She smirked at me like she could read my whole life in one glance. Yeah, I stammered. She laughed, shaking her head. Don't worry, I get it. I left home too. Parents don't understand anything, right? Her name was Kayla. She told me she'd been living on the streets for months, bouncing between friends' couches and shelters. At first, she seemed like an angel dropped into my nightmare. Someone who understood. Someone who got it. But the way she looked at me, like she was sizing me up, sent a chill down my spine. Still, that night, I followed her. I told myself I'd made a friend. That I wasn't alone. That maybe this runaway thing wouldn't be so bad after all. I had no idea then that trusting Kayla would change everything, and nearly cost me my life. Kayla led me through the back streets of the city like she'd walked them her whole life. The bus station lights faded behind us, replaced by flickering street lamps and the occasional neon sign buzzing in the dark. So, she said, stuffing her hands into her pockets, what's your deal? Strict parents? Bad breakup? Or just bored? I hesitated. Part of me wanted to keep my story to myself, but something about the night, and the fact that she seemed so confident, made the words spill out. My mom and we don't get along. She treats me like I'm 5 years old. Tonight she told me to just leave, so I did. Kayla smirked. Classic. They think they own us, but we don't owe them anything. You did the right thing. Her confidence was intoxicating. For the first time in months, I felt like someone was on my side. We eventually stopped in front of an abandoned-looking building covered in graffiti. Home sweet home, Kayla said with a grin, pushing open a side door. Inside, it was warmer than I expected. A few other teens were scattered around, some sleeping on old mattresses, some laughing and talking, a couple smoking by the window. This is where the real freedom is, Kayla announced, throwing her bag down. No parents, no rules, just us. I sat on a worn couch, clutching my backpack. A boy with messy blonde hair gave me a curious look. New girl? He asked Kayla. Yeah, she replied. This is Emily. She's cool. The boy nodded. I'm Jace. Welcome to the club. At first, it felt almost exciting. These kids were independent, living on their own, answering to no one. I listened to their stories, how they'd left home because of fights, or step-parents, or worse. For a moment, I felt like I belonged. But then reality started to creep in. My stomach growled loudly, and Kayla tossed me a half-empty bag of chips. Get used to it, she said casually. Meals aren't exactly regular here. I laughed awkwardly, but deep down, I felt a pang of dread. Later that night, as I tried to fall asleep on a thin blanket, I heard Kayla whispering to Jace. She's new, fresh, We can trust her? Jace's voice was low, but I caught the edge of it. Maybe, but she's soft. We'll see if she can handle it. A knot formed in my chest. Handle what? The next morning, Kayla shook me awake. Come on, we've got places to be. Where? I asked groggily. She smirked. Don't worry, you'll see. Consider it initiation. We walked for blocks, weaving through alleys until we reached a convenience store. Kayla stopped and looked at me seriously. Here's the deal. We need food. We don't have money. You want to stay with us? Prove yourself. Go grab something. Quick. My heart dropped. You mean, steal? Kayla rolled her eyes. Don't be so dramatic. Everybody does it. Just grab a couple things and walk out. Easy. I froze. My mom's voice echoed in my head, lecturing me about right and wrong, about consequences. But then Kayla's smirk cut through my hesitation. You want to survive out here, Emily? You can't be scared of getting your hands dirty. I looked at the store, then at Kayla's expectant face. My stomach twisted with fear and shame. I had wanted freedom, but was this really it? I took a shaky breath and stepped toward the door. That was the moment I realized running away was nothing like I imagined. The choices I was about to make could change me forever. The fluorescent lights of the convenience store buzzed overhead as I pushed the door open. My pulse was hammering so loud I thought the cashier might hear it. Kayla lingered outside, leaning casually against the wall, watching me. I grabbed a small basket, trying to act normal. Chips, a soda, some granola bars. My hands trembled as I slipped them into my backpack when no one was looking. You can do this, I told myself. It's just food. But as I headed toward the door, the cashier's voice rang out. Hey, what's in your bag? My heart dropped. Just my stuff, I stammered, forcing a smile. Open it, he demanded, stepping out from behind the counter. Panic flooded me. Without thinking, I bolted through the door. Kayla shouted, "Run!" And we tore down the street, my backpack bouncing against my shoulders, the cashier yelling behind us. We didn't stop until we ducked into an alley, both gasping for breath. Kayla doubled over, laughing. Damn, Emily, you should have seen your face. I collapsed against the wall, my chest burning. That wasn't funny. I almost got caught. Kayla smirked. Almost doesn't count. You did good. See? You can handle it. But inside, I felt sick. I'd never stolen anything in my life. My mom's angry voice used to terrify me, but at least at home, I wasn't this. That night back at the hideout, Jace clapped me on the shoulder. Welcome to the crew. You're one of us now. Everyone cheered, but their laughter felt hollow in my ears. I lay awake long after the others fell asleep, staring at the ceiling, wondering how far I'd already fallen. The days blurred together after that. We scavenged, stole, and scraped by. Sometimes we went hungry. Sometimes strangers offered kindness. Other times, danger. One night, Kayla pulled me aside. There's a guy downtown. He helps kids like us. Says he can hook us up with money, food, even a place to stay. Interested? Her tone was casual, but something in her eyes was sharp, calculating. I hesitated. Who is he? Does it matter? She replied. Unless you want to starve, we should at least hear him out. The next evening, we met him. His name was Rick, a man in his 30s with slicked back hair and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He leaned against a shiny car, watching us approach. Well, Rick said smoothly. Kayla wasn't lying. You're new, fresh. His eyes lingered on me a second too long, and my stomach twisted. Kayla grinned like she'd just introduced me to a celebrity. Told you she'd be worth meeting. Rick handed me a sandwich, still warm in its wrapper. My hunger betrayed me. I tore into it without hesitation. His smile widened. See? I take care of people who stick with me. All I ask is a little loyalty. His words sounded sweet, but beneath them, I heard the trap. Still, with food in my hands and warmth in my belly for the first time in days, part of me wanted to believe him. But another part, the small, scared voice deep inside, whispered, "This man is dangerous." And it was right. Rick's car smelled like leather and cigarette smoke. I sat in the backseat while Kayla chatted with him like they were old friends. My instincts screamed at me to get out, but my empty stomach and Kayla's confidence kept me frozen in place. So, Emily, Rick said, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. What's your story? You don't look like the type who belongs out here. I shifted uncomfortably. I left home. Rick chuckled. Didn't we all? Parents don't get it, do they? They think they can control you forever. His words echoed the anger that had driven me out of my house. For a second, I felt understood. But then his smile sharpened. Lucky for you, I can give you something better. A place to stay. Money in your pocket. Real freedom. Kayla leaned back, smirking at me. Told you he was the real deal. But then Rick's tone changed, just slightly. Of course, nothing's free. You'll have to do some work. Small things at first. Running errands, keeping quiet. Prove I can trust you. My throat went dry. What kind of errands? Rick didn't answer directly. He just laughed softly. Don't worry. You'll figure it out. The next day, he gave us a test. Grab a package from the corner of 9th and Main. Bring it straight to me. No questions. No delays. Kayla was thrilled. Easy money, she said, dragging me along. But my stomach churned. Something about the way Rick had looked at me, like I was both a pawn and a prize, made my skin crawl. We picked up the package, wrapped in brown paper, from a stranger on the street. My hands shook as I carried it. What am I doing? I thought. This isn't me. When we delivered it, Rick grinned like a proud parent. He handed Kayla a wad of cash. Split it, he said. Kayla's eyes gleamed as she stuffed the bills into her pocket. She handed me a single 20. For your part. That's it? I asked, staring at her. Hey, you're new, she snapped. Earn your keep, and you'll get more. That night, I lay awake on the thin mattress, the $20 bill clutched in my hand. It should have felt like a victory. Instead, it felt like chains. Over the next week, Rick kept calling. More errands. More packages. More secrecy. Every time, I told myself it was temporary, just until I figured out my next move. But deep down, I knew I was sinking deeper into something I couldn't escape. One evening, after another delivery, Rick pulled me aside. His hand lingered on my shoulder a little too long. You've got potential, Emily. You're smarter than the others. Stick with me, and I'll make sure you're taken care of. Better than that rundown shelter. I forced a smile, but inside, fear clawed at my chest. I realized then that Rick didn't just see me as a helper. He saw me as his next target. When Kayla wasn't looking, I whispered to Jace, the blonde boy who had first welcomed me. Have you ever thought about leaving? Getting away from Rick? His eyes darted nervously. Don't say that too loud. But yeah, sometimes. That gave me a flicker of hope. Maybe I wasn't trapped. Maybe there was a way out. But as Rick's shadow loomed larger over my days, one thing became terrifyingly clear. The freedom I thought I wanted had turned into a cage. And if I didn't find a way out soon, I might never escape. The nights felt colder, even though summer was barely ending. Every time Rick's name came up, I felt my chest tighten. He had this way of smiling that made you feel safe, until you realized you were already tangled in his web. Kayla adored him. She bragged constantly. Rick's like family to me. He's the only one who's ever had my back. She said it with such conviction that sometimes I wondered if she truly believed it, or if she was trying to convince herself. Jace, on the other hand, was quieter. He did what Rick asked but never smiled around him. One night, while the others laughed over cheap beer, Jace and I sat apart. You don't trust him, do you? I whispered. He shook his head. Rick uses people. He pretends to care, but once he's done with you, you're nothing. I've seen it happen. Then why stay? I asked. Jace stared at the floor. Because where else am I supposed to go? Back to a house that doesn't want me? At least here I know the rules. His words hit me hard. Because I was starting to realize I traded one prison for another. The breaking point came a week later. Rick called us to his car late at night. He handed Kayla a small box. Take this to an address on 12th. Don't open it. Don't be late. Kayla nodded, excited. But then Rick turned to me. You go with her. Make sure she doesn't screw it up. The way he said it made my stomach twist. Kayla wasn't the one he was testing, it was me. We walked through the dark streets, the box clutched in Kayla's hands. This is big, she whispered. Rick trusts us. Do you know what this means? We're moving up. I didn't answer. My eyes were glued to the box. It was small, but it felt heavy, like it was carrying my conscience with it. Halfway there, I stopped. Kayla, what if what we're doing is wrong? What if it's dangerous? She spun around, glaring at me. Of course it's dangerous. That's the point. You think freedom comes without risk? Grow up, Emily. I flinched. Her words cut deep, but more than that, I realized she wasn't going to change. Kayla was already too far gone. When we finally delivered the box, a man with cold eyes snatched it from Kayla's hands and slammed the door without a word. My stomach sank. Whatever was inside, it wasn't just errands. On the way back, Kayla was glowing. "We're in, Emily. Rick's gonna love us." But all I felt was dread. That night, as we returned to the hideout, Rick was waiting. He clapped Kayla on the back, then turned to me. His hand rested on my cheek, his thumb brushing my skin in a way that made me shiver with disgust. "You did good," he murmured. "You're learning fast." I forced a nod, but inside, my decision was made. I couldn't stay. Not another night. Later, when everyone was asleep, I whispered to Jace. "I'm leaving. I can't do this anymore. Come with me." His eyes widened. "Emily, you don't understand. People who leave Rick, they don't just walk away. He finds them. Then we'll run far enough," I insisted, my voice trembling. "We can't stay here. Not with him." For a long moment, Jace said nothing. Then, finally, he whispered back, "Okay. But if we're going, it has to be soon." I nodded, my heart pounding. I had no plan, no money, nowhere to go. But one thing was certain, staying meant losing myself completely. And I wasn't ready to give up just yet. The next morning, I could barely swallow my breakfast, half a stale bagel Kayla had scrounged up. My nerves were too raw. Every time Rick's name came up in conversation, I felt like someone was squeezing my lungs. Jace caught my eye from across the room. He didn't say anything, but the look in his face told me he hadn't forgotten our whispered plan. By noon, Rick showed up again. He leaned in the doorway, surveying us like we were soldiers under his command. "Got another job tonight," he announced. "Big one. Everyone's involved." Kayla practically vibrated with excitement. "What is it?" Rick grinned. "Moving some stuff across town. More hands, less heat." His gaze slid to me. "Emily's ready." The room seemed to close in on me. Ready? I wasn't even sure I was ready to breathe in that moment. When Rick left, Kayla grabbed my arm. "This is it. This is how we prove ourselves." I pulled away. "Kayla, don't you ever wonder what's in those boxes? What we're really doing?" She laughed bitterly. "Does it matter? We're surviving." That's more than I could say back home. I wanted to scream at her, shake her until she understood. But instead, I swallowed my words. Because tonight wasn't about convincing Kayla, it was about escaping. As evening fell, Jace sat beside me. His voice was barely a whisper. "We'll slip out during the job. When everyone's distracted. It's our best shot." I nodded, my heart thundering. "Where will we go?" "Anywhere but here," he said firmly. "I've got a friend on the other side of town. Maybe we can crash there until we figure things out." It wasn't much of a plan, but it was something. That night, Rick loaded us into his car. He handed out packages, smaller than before but wrapped the same way. "Deliver fast, no mistakes," he ordered. We split into pairs, Kayla with another boy, me with Jace. My hands shook as I took the package. But not from the job. From anticipation. Tonight, I was going to be free. We walked quickly through the dim streets. When we turned down a quieter block, Jace grabbed my hand. "Now," he hissed. We sprinted. Down alleys, across intersections, my lungs burning. I didn't care where we went. I just knew we had to put as much distance as possible between us and Rick. After what felt like forever, we collapsed behind a dumpster, gasping for breath. Jace laughed weakly. We did it. We actually did it. But my relief was short-lived. My backpack was gone, torn off during the run. Inside had been the little money I had left, and worse, my only photo of my mom and me, back when things were still okay. Tears stung my eyes. Freedom came with a cost, and it felt like I was bleeding pieces of myself just to get away. Jace touched my shoulder. "We'll figure it out. You're not alone anymore." His words gave me strength. For the first time since I left home, I felt like someone genuinely cared. Not for what I could give, but for who I was. But as the night stretched on and we found a cold bench to sleep on, a new fear crept in. Because if Rick realized we'd run, he wouldn't just let it go. The city feels different when you're on the run. Every shadow looks like a trap, every siren like it's coming for you. Jace and I huddled on that bench until sunrise, too scared to sleep. By morning, we were stiff, cold, and hungry. Jace led me through back streets until we found a small diner. The smell of bacon and coffee made my stomach ache. But when I patted my empty pockets, the reality hit. I had nothing. "We can't pay," I whispered. Jace gave me a weak smile. Sometimes kindness still exists. He approached the counter, explaining to the waitress that we were just passing through and hadn't eaten in days. She eyed us carefully, then sighed. "Sit down. I'll see what I can do." Moments later, she brought us eggs and toast, steaming hot. I nearly cried as I ate. For the first time in weeks, someone had shown me compassion without asking for anything in return. But the peace didn't last. As we were leaving, I caught sight of a car across the street. Black, shiny, familiar. My blood ran cold. Rick's car. "Jace," I whispered urgently, tugging his sleeve. "He's here." Jace's eyes widened. "Run." We bolted down the sidewalk, weaving through crowds. My heart hammered in my chest. Behind us, I swore I heard a door slam, heavy footsteps following. We ducked into an alley, pressing against the wall, holding our breath. Minutes passed. Finally, Jace whispered, maybe he didn't see us. But I wasn't convinced. That night, we found refuge in an old playground. Rusted swings, cracked slides, grass grown wild. It was eerie, but it felt safer than the open streets. Sitting on the swing, I finally let the words spill. I miss my mom. I hate her rules, her yelling, but at least I knew she cared. Here, it's just, my voice cracked. It's just surviving. Jace sat beside me. I know. I used to think running would fix everything. But freedom's not what I thought it'd be either. For a while, we just sat in silence, listening to the creak of the swings in the wind. Then Jace looked at me seriously. "Emily, what if we went back? Not to Rick, but to your mom, or someone who can actually help." The thought terrified me. After everything, could I even face my mom again? Would she take me back? Or would she slam the door in my face? Before I could answer, a sound echoed from the street. Tires screeching, a car door slamming. Jace grabbed my hand. "Emily." He found us. My chest tightened with terror. The playground lights flickered as Rick's figure emerged from the shadows, calm, deliberate, like a predator closing in. "You really thought you could run?" His voice was smooth, almost amused. "No one leaves me. Not like this." Jace stepped in front of me. "Stay away from her." Rick chuckled darkly. "Brave, but stupid." My whole body trembled. For weeks, I had been trapped in Rick's orbit, pulled deeper and deeper. But now, staring at him, I realized something I hadn't before. I wasn't powerless. Not anymore. And if I wanted to survive, if I wanted a real future, I had to fight for it. The playground was silent except for the distant hum of traffic and the pounding of my heart. Rick stood a few yards away, hands in his jacket pockets, his smile cold and certain. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," he said, his voice silky but sharp underneath. "Come back now, and we'll forget this little stunt. Keep running, and..." He let the sentence trail off, but the threat hung heavy in the air. Jace squared his shoulders. "We're done, Rick. You don't own us." Rick laughed, low and cruel. "Don't I? You think you can just walk away? After everything I've given you?" I stepped forward, my legs trembling but my voice steadier than I expected. "You didn't give us freedom. You trapped us. You made us scared. I'm not going back." His smile vanished. His eyes turned cold, dangerous. "Careful, Emily. You're playing with fire." Jace grabbed my hand, and we bolted toward the street. Rick cursed and lunged after us. The sound of his shoes slamming against the pavement echoed in my ears. We tore through the neighborhood, weaving between houses, hearts hammering. My lungs burned, but adrenaline pushed me forward. Jace pulled me around a corner, into another alley. We pressed against the wall, gasping, waiting for footsteps. They came. Slow, deliberate. Rick's voice followed, taunting. "You can't hide forever. I'll find you. And when I do, you'll wish you never ran." My hands shook uncontrollably. Jace leaned close, whispering, "We need help. Real help. The cops, someone. This ends tonight." The word, cops, made my stomach twist. After weeks of stealing and running, I was terrified of what they'd do to us. But then I thought about Rick's hand on my cheek, his threats, the cage he'd built around us. Jail couldn't be worse than that. We crept along the alley until we spotted a small corner store still open. Lights bright, a woman sweeping inside. Without thinking, we dashed across the street and stumbled inside. The woman looked up in surprise. "Hey, you kids okay?" "Please," I gasped, clutching the counter. "You have to call the police. There's a man, he's after us. Please." Her eyes widened, but she didn't hesitate. She grabbed the phone, dialing quickly. Outside, I saw Rick's silhouette pacing past the glass. His eyes met mine through the window. A slow, sinister smile spread across his face. He tapped the glass once with his knuckle, like a warning, before vanishing into the shadows. Minutes later, red and blue lights filled the street. Officers rushed inside, questioning us, taking notes. I told them everything, about Rick, the errands, the boxes, how he recruited kids. My voice cracked, but I didn't stop. I wasn't going to be silent anymore. One officer exchanged a look with another. "We've had our eye on him," he said grimly. "You did the right thing coming forward." For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of safety. But that night, as Jace and I sat in the back of a police car, I stared out the window at the city passing by and wondered, was Rick really gone? Or was his shadow going to haunt me forever? The ride to the station was a blur. My head buzzed with exhaustion and fear, but also relief. For the first time since leaving home, I wasn't hiding. I wasn't running. At the precinct, an officer led Jace and me into a small room with harsh fluorescent lights. A woman in plain clothes sat across from us, introducing herself as Detective Ramirez. "You're safe now," she said gently. "But we need details. Everything you can remember about Rick." I swallowed hard, my hands trembling on the table. I told her everything: his car, his hideout, the packages, the kids he kept close. At times, my voice cracked, but I forced myself to continue. Every word felt like another step out of his shadow. Jace added what he knew too. When we were done, Detective Ramirez leaned back, nodding slowly. "You did the right thing. We've suspected Rick for a long time. With your testimony, we might finally have enough to bring him down." Her words should have comforted me, but all I could think was, what if he finds out we talked? Hours later, another officer entered. "Child Protective Services is on the way. They'll help find you both safe housing." The words made my chest tighten. Housing, shelter, foster care, maybe. But a bigger fear loomed. What about my mom? When CPS finally arrived, a kind-faced woman named Ms. Green sat beside me. "Emily, we can contact your family. Would you like us to?" My throat closed. "She'll hate me." She told me to leave. Ms. Green shook her head gently. "Parents say things they don't mean when they're angry. I think she'd rather know you're safe than keep wondering." I wanted to believe her. But the memory of my mom's furious face haunted me. Still, after everything I'd been through, a part of me longed for her voice, her arms, even her scolding. So I nodded. "Call her." The wait felt endless. Finally, Ms. Green returned, her voice soft. "Your mom is on her way." When she walked into the station, I froze. She looked older, her face lined with worry, her eyes red from crying. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she rushed forward, pulling me into her arms. "Oh, Emily," she sobbed. "I thought I'd lost you. I was so scared." Tears spilled down my cheeks. "I'm sorry, Mom. I thought you didn't want me anymore." She pulled back just enough to look me in the eyes. "Never. I was angry, but I didn't mean it. You're my daughter. I will always want you." For the first time in weeks, I felt like a child again, not weak, but loved. Jace watched quietly from the corner, his expression unreadable. I realized then that unlike me, he didn't have someone coming to claim him. My heart ached for him. Before we left, I touched his arm. "Come with us. You don't have to be alone." But Jace shook his head softly. "This is your chance, Emily. I'll figure mine out." I wanted to argue, but I saw the resolve in his eyes. He'd made his choice. As my mom and I left the station together, I glanced back one last time. Jace gave me a faint smile, and I knew he was saying goodbye. The night air felt different now, still cold, but no longer suffocating. For the first time, I believed I might actually have a future. But in the shadows of the city, somewhere out there, Rick was still free. And I knew this wasn't truly over. Not yet. The morning sun filtered through the blinds as I sat on my bed at home, feeling a strange mix of relief, exhaustion, and disbelief. I had made it back. I was safe. My mom was beside me, holding my hand like she never wanted to let go. Weeks had passed since the police arrested Rick. The kids he had exploited were placed in protective care or with relatives. I testified, recounting every detail I could remember, and his empire of fear finally crumbled. Mom and I spent long hours talking, entangling the anger, fear, and misunderstandings that had built up over years. "I'm sorry I yelled," she said one evening. "I was scared. I didn't know how to help you, so I pushed you away." I shook my head, tears spilling over. "I ran because I was scared too. But I didn't know how to tell you." She hugged me tight, and for the first time since I left, I felt whole. School had resumed, and returning was harder than I expected. Whispers and glances followed me through the halls. Some kids stared because of the rumors, others because they had heard about Rick and the police. But I found strength in the quiet support of a few friends who had stayed in touch. Jace's absence weighed heavily on me. I missed him, worried about him, but I had hope. Hope that he would find his way too. Some days, I imagined him safe, building a life without fear. Mom and I began rebuilding our bond, starting small, movie nights, cooking together, long talks about school and friends. She was learning to trust me again, and I was learning to trust her. One evening, I sat by my window, reflecting on everything that had happened. The fear, the running, the danger, it had changed me. But it had also shown me something essential. Courage isn't about being fearless. It's about standing up, even when you are terrified. I realized that freedom wasn't just leaving a place. It was reclaiming your life, your voice, and your choices. And I had done that. As I watched the sunset, my mom called me to dinner. I took a deep breath, letting the warmth of the home, the love, and the safety fill me. I knew life wouldn't be perfect. There would always be shadows and challenges, but now I could face them without fear. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I smiled freely, knowing I had survived, grown stronger, and truly come home. The night had ended, but a new chapter had begun. A chapter where I was no longer just a girl running from her fears. I was Emily Carter, survivor, fighter, and daughter who had reclaimed her world. And nothing, not even the shadows of the past, could take that away.